So it looks like Patricia switched up the neat order of services that she got because she was going to introduce me, but she did it all at the beginning. That's the best laid plans, right? And I've got Jesse over there who knows that I shout sometimes, so he's going to watch my sound for me. Good morning, everybody. And Rick, can we give Rick some more love? And the RC House Band. The very first time I was here, Rick sang. The very first time that I spoke here, so this is just so familiar. Soul Center is like a second home to me. You're such a loving community. You're so beautiful, and I hope you know that. I hope you know that what you're doing here, showing up in this space with the intention to do this, is significant. That it matters. That whether other groups of people are gathered doing the same thing or another thing, what you are doing here matters. That there's no circumstance of accidental happening that brought us together. I love to utilize the wonderful scene from the film Benjamin Buttons, if you've ever seen the movie. And there's the tragic moment where the woman who's a dancer recounts the accident that she had that left her immobile and unable to dance. And she just goes back through all of the moments where she had stood a little bit longer to take her cup of coffee, or she had walked around the car one way instead of the other way, or any of these things, the precise way in which the universe unfolded for that accident to happen would have been different. And so, since it wasn't, what we realize is that it could not have been different. And so there is an absolute embrace of what unfolds in life, of the things that actually take place, not simply the things that we're planning or the things that have yet to arrive. What we are invited to do, and what I'm inviting all of us to do today, is accept the opportunity in this moment that we've come together with a high intention. And here's my intention for what I'm sharing with you today. I intend to leave whatever the part of me that Spirit has birthed forth for this moment with you in such a way that you take home something within you that's different than what you came with. That's my intention. Because I know that no matter how many parts of myself I give away, I'm not going to run out. Just as we are all breathing and taking these breaths in the moment, that the universe has provided us with ample oxygen to breathe in. And even the baby that's in the back, no matter how excited it gets, can't take all the air from us. And no matter how many times I run around this room, I might be breathing hard and heavy, but I can't take the air away from you. And so my title today is Dying to Live, Dying to Love. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just was talking about you. We're just loving on you, Oliver. Is that who that is in the back? So we know that Oliver is well, and he's doing great back there. And don't take him out of here. I love him being here. His presence is just precious. And so the topic again is dying to live, dying to love. And the theme that you've been working with over the month has been, what is agape love? I don't want to spend much time talking about that. One of the most beautiful talks you could spend any time looking up is Dr. Martin Luther King's talk on the 3 types of love. I've learned so much for it. My teacher, one of my teachers, Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, has taught different aspects of it, and it's a wonderful way to reference it and expand your understanding of what love is. You can YouTube it, you can listen to it, but I'm here to talk about the very aspect of love that he ends with, which is the agape love. It's often articulated as unconditional love. It's often articulated as all conditional love. It's a love that goes beyond circumstances, situations, and conditions. We'll get back to that. In this moment, I want to talk about dying to live, dying to love. And it's such an interesting thing, the way Spirit works with me and how the topics or the subjects come forward, because I heard that and I needed to have a topic, because generally as speakers we speak to topics, and that was the topic that came up. I said, okay, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I sat with the ideas that we spend so much time talking about when it comes to dying. And this poem that she read, I thought was like giving away half of my talk. I just felt like it's dying to this, and it's dying to that. And of course, it was the perfect tone to be set. Because here's what I want us to understand. Today, we're enjoying what is now starting to look a little bit more like outside, the first day of spring. So it's March 20th, we're here, and for much of the earth, it has been a time of dormancy. And so California, Southern California in particular, we don't see a lot of change from October to March. But those of you that have lived anywhere else, if you've lived on the East Coast, if you've lived down south, you've seen all the leaves fall off of the trees. And you can imagine what that looked like to a more primitive society that was watching everything that they saw as the fruit of the trees fall away. It looked like the earth was dying around them. And so many cultures would pack up all that they had and they would move to another location. We know that in the indigenous populations do that. It's very similar to what some of our more wealthier friends do. They have their summer homes, they pack up, they visit the snow for a little while, and then they come back. And so we see that there is this shift. And so much of what we use in our language tells us about the ideas about how we see life. And we casually toss around the phrase, I'm dying to. So often it's an acceptance of a limited circumstance and a limited belief and a limited way that I'm going to walk through the world. Oh, I'm dying to go to Egypt. Or I'm dying to go see that new movie. Or I'm dying to do this. Or I'm dying to do that. And really, what they're saying is, I'm not willing to do it, or I'm incapable of doing it, or there's a part of me that is telling me this would be good for me, that this would be something I should take advantage of, or that this is something that I should check out. And in reality, they're just allowing that to pass away. They're not even taking it on. So many people, when it comes to things that they put dying in front of, they don't spend any time with it. They don't even really know whether or not there's an opportunity within them for it. But here's the thing. I hate to break it to you. There is no death. Breaking news. There is this concept that we have as a society of death. In the Bible, it talks about death, in the Talmud, and the Quran, and the Torah. They all talk about death in some manner, in some form. And the expression that eventually comes up is an end to a thing. When we look at our society, so much of what we are and do suddenly shifts when death arrives. Particularly for those who are still living. But those of us who are ushering those who have transitioned, so many times family members are gathering together and they're saying things like, how come it takes somebody dying to get us all to come together? Or how come it took so-and-so to die in order for me to forgive or to be able to sit down at this table with you again? And it happens in so many areas of our lives. We wait. How many people have seen that happen either to them or those that they love? Relationships are healed, changes in how they see things. Someone's spouse makes their transition and suddenly, bing, they're living again. They had an existence and they were doing things, but when their spouse transitioned, or when their parent transitioned, or when their loved one transitioned, suddenly they're living again. There's a new vibrancy. They're changing things. There's no need to judge it. We just recognize that it is, and that that same potentiality existed before the transition. You see, death is not the end of anything. It is a completion. But simultaneously, at the same moment that somebody talks about the death of anything, you can even look at the plants in your yard, whether you have a brown thumb or a green thumb, I won't judge you. Whatever your thumb looks like, maybe everything's robust, or maybe your place is the house where plants go to die. No judgment. But here's the thing. Just because there isn't a bloom, just because the soil seems to be a little dry, does not mean that there's death there. That it is absent of life. You see, in the middle of all of that, there's still life. There's still a potentiality. You see, death is just merely the transition of an energy that we call life. You can look at it on a mineral, microbial level, and you can see how things shift and change. And you can see it changes from one form to the other. As much as we might talk about climate change, or we might talk about the ice caps, and we talk about the polar bears having a less of a playground or less of a community to hang out and play in, the reality is there's less ice for them to dance on and play on and scratch their tushies on, right? And so that doesn't mean that the ice caps have died. They've just merely transitioned. And what we know is that these seas have risen. And so as people have transitioned from one form of their existence in this human body, as Jason or whatever their name was, they move into another existence. But their energy remains with us, because they're still living. And so there's this idea of what we're dying to live. We're in this moment. We're in a pause. It's almost like those science fiction movies where they're traveling to Mars and suddenly they have the technology to put you in stasis, and so you travel for 100 years and you wake up at the same age that you were. That might be nice, but I'm not really sure what it's going to be like then. So I think I'm going to live now, because I have no idea what the world will be. However, this idea of dying to live is just a waiting period. The same thing is happening with love. With love specifically. The world that we live in is dying for us to love each other. It is dying for you to love yourself. It's a little quiet in here all of a sudden. But that's true. It's waiting. It's dormant. And in some ways, it's stagnant. And so we talk about stagnancy. And how often in California, we had to deal with the mosquito challenge. And they always tell us to get rid of all of the stagnant water, because that's where they breed and that's where they dwell. And then they say, nothing grows in stagnant water, but apparently mosquitoes do. Our favorite. And yet, you, wherever you are, can look at your own life and see what you're dying to love. Are you dying to love anyone? Are you dying to be loved? Are you dying to figure out how to appreciate the changes in your body? Are you waiting to find a part of yourself that isn't limited, that was a gift to you, that isn't to be ashamed of, that is here to bring you joy, that is here to bring life into the world, that's here, right now, that you have, that's not an accident, right now. The world is dying for you to do that. Most of the situations and the circumstances that we have in life, in this world, that are conflict, stem from an idea that we do not want to lose who we are now or what we have now. There's a belief in shortage and a limited amount of resources, as if suddenly we won't have what we have now. And we like it so much that we don't want to let it go. Except for when we go and get the next thing that we want. There's also this idea of ourselves. Many of those people that were in those relationships dying to live were so caught up in the identity that they had, the things that defined them, the things that were their way of being in the world, that they were unwilling to see that they were even more than that. No housewife is merely a housewife. No matter how many times they take the kids back and forth to soccer practice, no matter how many meals they prepare, no matter how well they take care of their partner, they are not merely that. They are also a divine creative energy. They are also a field of goodness. They're also a field of love. They're also a place where divine ideas and creative capacities are seeking to express. No father is merely a father, no matter how rooted we might be in that identity. None of us are any one of the labels that we have, and yet some of us restrict ourselves to them. And the universe hasn't given you labels. We've taken them all on. As if for some reason, the idea of who we are and the label that we wear is more important than all of the things that we can do. All of the things that we can teach each other. All of the things that we can share. So what is it like to have a sense of urgency to live? What would it be like if we really wanted to change something? Like, have you ever had that one thing that was going on in the house that you were working on and you did have somewhere to go? But somehow, in some way, taking the knob off of this dresser because you wanted to take it to find the match just became the most important thing in the world. Just this, I just got to get it off. I'll get there. You're just trying to get it off. Or maybe it's, I need to pick the new curtains out. Or I need to figure out what I'm going to wear to this event, and I'll miss this event trying to figure out what to wear to this one. Or maybe it's trying to figure out the right balance or the right nutrition or whatever it is for my kids. This is the meal that Jerry likes. I can't leave until we figure out how to get Jerry his meal. There are some times in our lives where we have that sense of urgency. And that's a gift from the universe. But here's the thing. It doesn't only occur in that one moment. That you have the ability to tap into that sense of urgency whenever you're ready. You just have to be willing to die to the other ideas. You have to be willing to let go of the energy of holding the thing in this hand so that you can get to the thing that's out here calling you forward. To that new idea of living. To that new way of seeing yourself. To the new way of loving yourself. To the new way of living. Because it's out there. Don't let anyone for a moment let you believe in an idea that says this is all there is. This neighborhood, this community, this gender, this sexuality, this way of being in the world. You are not limited to any of it. And every impulse within you should be investigated. Every idea within you should at least be looked at. You don't need to do a research paper on it. Most of us who got out of school, the last thing we ever did was want to do another research paper. But you now have a skill set so that you can honestly look at something and say, this is for me. This is not. And when you realize through that investigation of all those things that are not for you, you can let them go. And you can start living. You can let things from the past go. And you can start loving in a different way. You can let the limited ideas that the world has given you about people, that the world has given you about yourself, that you can do that very, very challenging spiritual practice of standing naked before the mirror and actually loving yourself. So many people have a challenge standing in front of the mirror, fully clothed, just looking at themselves in the eye and saying, I love you. Let's not talk about trying to say that to another human being. Let's not even talk about trying to say it to their whole body, to embrace their breasts or their abs or their stomachs that's covering up their abs, or the changes that have gone on in their breasts, the changes that have gone on in their eyes, the hair that's growing out of their ears or on top of their ears or not on top of their head, or all of the different things, and to just truly love it. And here's the thing. Let's go back to where we started. What is that love? It is an unconditional acceptance. Can you, without condition, accept yourself? Can you recognize that you are a perfect expression of perfection? That the source of creation, that was smart enough to put Venus and Mars far enough away from the sun so that they could perfectly do what they do, and put us close enough to the sun so that this planet could be nurtured by the sun and not scorched by it, or not too far away from the sun so that we would be a frozen planet. That the Creator, the source of life, the force that has spent universes and galaxies and dimensions into existence, knew with a level of precision that you should look like this, that you should be here today, that you should walk these streets, and that you should make the choices that you make. Can you accept that in the perfection of creation, that you are also that perfection? And then, with that dying sense of urgency, with that dying sense of loving, with such an earnestness, look at the people in your community and love them. Requires no action. To simply love. And if you find the impulse to act, investigate it. If you find the impulse to shift, investigate it. But know that within you is literally all of the brilliance and the intelligence that created all that you've ever seen. Any place that you've ever been to, any vehicle you've ever ridden in, any home or house or resort you've ever walked through. The same infinite intelligence that took us from stone buildings to heightened built, man-made islands, all of this is within you. And it can simply make life easier for your neighbors or for people in other countries. Or simply, you will hold a frequency of earnestness and urgency to live and to love, that holding that vibration will literally change the world. How's that sound?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Go ahead and take your seat. One of the wonderful things that I get to do as a guest speaker here in your community, my second home, is help us to realize that this is our community. And what changes and transformations happen at Soul Center are chiefly up to us, right? In your home, where you will go to at some point in the day, the standard of experience that people have when they come and go in your home is based upon the choices that you made for your home. This is your home. So this is our time of sacred circulation, of giving. So what we're going to do now is bring forward into our consciousness how we would like to lovingly support Soul Center OC. So it's my absolute opportunity and joy to say that this time of tithing and offering, whether you're giving and what way that you're giving, is such a sacred practice. I'm actually in a class and we're talking about that now. We're talking about how we can set aside the source and the resource that we use in this country of finances, and it supports the things that we love. And it not only supports the things that we love, that when we give out from us, that as a principle, the energy that we send out comes back to us expanded exponentially, not simply even in the form that we send it out, but we get back from Soul Center because we give to Soul Center. We get back from the Boys and Girls Club because we might give to the Boys and Girls Club, because the world is better because we lovingly support these institutions and specifically this community. So at this time, I don't know where our ushers are, but our ushers are going to come forward, and so they're going to start passing the baskets, and as soon as they complete the baskets, they'll come back up front and we'll do a blessing. So, Rick, give us a little music.
That was an amazing talk today.
Oh, thank you, brother. So we've got a song coming up from Rick and the band today, and then we'll do a little blessing.
So this song is actually a song I wrote myself. It's an original.